Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Twins Take Podcast. We're your hosts, Luke and Jackson Hershey, twins from Charlotte, North Carolina. Same face, two opinions. And, guys, we are so excited to tell you all about our guest today.
Yeah, we have an absolute legend in the NFL world. He's arguably the greatest general manager in NFL history. He was the general manager when the Buffalo Bills went to 4 straight Super Bowls, then took an opportunity to come here in Charlotte, and he was the first general manager in Carolina Panthers history, and then decided to go to Indianapolis and won his first Super Bowl with Peyton Manning, Pat McAfee coach, Tony Dungy, and he had some really unbelievable stories, like wild, and it was really so cool to hear really the behind the scenes of like what's draft day like. And I know we all sit down and we're watching the NFL, us the Carolina Panthers on Sunday, and are like, man, if they had that one player, they would win the division, they go to the Super Bowl, and he was the guy making those decisions, and it was so interesting, really kind of tapping into the brain of really the best to ever do it. And I think the really cool thing for the two of us was we were filming this the day that the Carolina Panthers found out that they were going to be the NFC South titles for the first time in 10 years. And we were sitting there with the first GM of the Panthers, watching them kind of make this historic turnaround from what we've watched over the last 10 years. So that was really special. We are so excited about this interview. So many unbelievable stories we can't wait to share with you guys. So without further ado, Coach Bill Polian, let's go. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Twins Take Podcast. We have an awesome guest live in Charlotte, North Carolina. If you know anything about the world of the NFL and football, he's really a legend. NFL GM for the Indianapolis Colts, Carolina Panthers, and Buffalo Bills, none other than Coach Bill Polian. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to be with you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for taking the time on a Sunday. I know it's busy. All the teams are going to the playoffs, so we really do appreciate you taking the time.
Glad to do it.
So first of all, I've always thought the general management side of the NFL was so interesting because, like, as fans, we're watching the players every week, and we're sitting there, like me and Jackson were talking about this today of the Carolina Panthers, of like, how do you make this team better? And that was really your job in the NFL of building this team. So I guess the first question is, growing up, did you ever think you were going to be part of that management side of the NFL, or did you actually just want to play?
No, I didn't. I figured out when I got to college that I wasn't going to play professionally. and at that point, I turned my attention to coaching. Mm-hmm. And I coached for 10 years at the small college level at the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy and at Columbia University.
Sure.
And then at Kings Point, the Merchant Marine Academy was at the end of that. And even though we had consecutive winning seasons, we got fired. New AD came in and fired the staff. And so I was out of work. And I had a growing family at the time. And I turned to the world of advertising.
Interesting.
And sort of put football behind me, so I thought. And my college coach became the personnel director with the Montreal Alouettes of the CFL. And he called me up out of the blue and said, you need to be in football, and the best thing you do is evaluate talent, and I want you to come to work for us. And he said part-time in the end, and that's what the salary was. In the end, it ended up being a lot more than that. But at the end of the season, he called me up and said, Coach would like to have you come up here. We're in the playoffs. Wow. And talk with you. So I went up and I met with the coach, and he astounded me. He said, I've been reading your reports, and they're really great. You got a unique view of things, and I really would like to have you in this organization and play a big role. Well, the coach's name was Marv Levy.
Sure.
So now you know the rest of the story.
Wow, that's crazy.
He took me to Kansas City with him, and then we got let go there.
Sure.
And then I went back to the CFL as a personnel director in Winnipeg, and that was my first foray into an executive position, policy-making position, and we did well there. And then Marv got the Chicago Blitz head coaching job, brought me in as personnel director and assistant GM, and I was eventually named the acting GM when the ownership stepped out and new ownership came in. And then I got the opportunity to go to Buffalo as the pro personnel director back to the NFL. So then it was obvious we were going to have to make a coaching change in Buffalo. And I thought I was out there as well. And out of the blue, Mr. Wilson, the owner, called me over to Detroit and offered me the GM's job on January 1st, 1986.
That's unbelievable.
And so I got a chance to hire Marv. And
That's
again,
cool.
you know what the rest of the story
Right.
is. Up until now, the greatest era in Buffalo Bills history.
That's absolutely incredible. I wanted to jump from your transition from the CFL to the NFL. How big of a deal was it to make that move? Because the CFL to the NFL, I mean, it's all football, but that's still
It's a different game, but it's not.
Yeah, not much.
Really?
Yeah, I think for young people like yourself, occasionally I talk to groups of young people who want to go into pro football or any professional sport. And my advice is get in any way you can. It's very hard to get in. If it's baseball you're interested in, get in at the minor league level, get at the amateur level, do whatever you can to get in. Because when you're working at the lower levels, you do a lot of jobs. There are not a lot of people. In the NFL, there's an overpopulation of people on the administrative side. Below that level, there's not. So you learn to do a lot of things. So when I got to Buffalo, I was the pro guy. They hadn't had one before. I had been a pro personnel person in Kansas City, so I'd done the job before. I knew how to set it up. I knew what had to be done. When I was promoted to GM, I had already signed players to contracts in Canada. I had done it in the USFL. I'd run an organization in the USFL. And so it was all of what I'd learned at the lower levels just came into play immediately. The only thing is that there's much more money and much more notoriety in the NFL.
Sure.
When you made it to Buffalo, like, was there ever a point? Because I mean, it was really the first time you were in really the main position in the NFL. Was there ever a point for you where everything just kind of clicked of like shoot, I made it? Like, did that ever happen?
No, that never happened. But it's close. It's a great question. It must have been 1985. My memory is not what it used to be, so don't hold me to the dates. But our general manager, the man I was working for, Terry Bledsoe, had a very serious heart attack, and he couldn't come to work. He was out of work for a long period of time, and there was a league meeting that takes place every March. It's constitutionally mandated in the Constitution and bylaws of the NFL, and everybody in the NFL is there, including oodles and oodles of media.
Sure.
And the room where the meeting takes place, they allow two people in, the principal owner and usually the coach or the GM. The only exception they make to that is 3 if they're discussing rules.
Sure.
So Mr. Wilson, the owner, said to me, you need to come to the meeting. So I didn't quite honestly know what to expect. And I went into the room, and he and I sat down, and I looked up at the dais, and there was Tex Schramm.
That's crazy.
And Don Shula.
That's so wild.
And Paul Brown.
I mean, these are legendary.
And Tom Landry.
Right, I mean, they're legendary names in the NFL.
And I said to myself, what am I doing here?
That's so surreal. That's not even real. That's awesome. From that point, when, like, how many years was it from there until you actually became the head GM?
One more season.
Okay, one more season.
Yeah, the season of 86 was my first season as GM.
So how when you're going in an off season and you're building the team, you're orchestrating everything. What is your mindset like? What are you doing to prepare to go into the off season for the draft, to scout all these players? Because I mean, you can't physically do that all by yourself.
And also on top of that, you have free agency, and
there's a lot going on.
And to add on to that point, like Do you enjoy the free agency side more, or do you enjoy the draft? I guess there's parts
No,
of
the draft by far.
I'm sure,
Nobody
but-
likes free agents. Because that's agents' time.
Oh, you're not even dealing with the
They're in
players.
charge.
Sure.
You're not. And the fates take you in different directions. Now, when I first took over as GM in Buffalo in '86, free agency didn't come along until '93.
Sure.
I played a big role in developing that, in helping Commissioner Tagliabue develop that, but
Interesting.
that was long in the future. So in those days, you went directly from the season into draft preparation and team building. Now, there's a difference between talent evaluation and team building. There are many more people who can evaluate talent pretty well, but can't build teams because they
Interesting.
can't see the whole picture.
Can't see the vision.
Yeah, and vision, that's exactly correct. And so I was fortunate to be one of the people who had both talents. I was able to do both.
Sure.
And that's God-given.
Right.
You know, either you have it or you don't. You develop it over time by repetition.
Right.
10,000 hours. You
Yep.
know,
Right, 10,000 hours till you master
you're an
something,
expert
till you're an
after,
expert. Right,
yeah,
yes, sir.
10,000 hours. So I had my 10,000 hours in, that was for sure.
But you started out low. You had to
Yeah,
figure it all
that's
out.
how you develop it. That's exactly right. But then when free agency came along, that changed everything because now you go directly from the end of the season into an immediate evaluation of the squad and the salary cap and who you think you can keep and who you think you can't.
Sure.
And now you're involved in negotiations. It's just the calendar is so filled with things now that there's hardly a chance to take a breath.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about that with like it's the same thing with college sports. Like, there's no.
Oh, yeah, it's
from the
crazy.
time of like, I mean, coach, you're not even done with your season yet.
NIL,
Coaches are
transfer
getting
portal.
fired. Guys are going in the transfer portal before the season's over. Like, I mean, it's like college.
I think
play.
they said it opened the second, right, officially, and they said there was already 1,000 players enter the transfer portal before it even officially opened, which
Yeah.
is wild.
And then, yeah.
Well,
go ahead.
they lack leadership at the
Sure.
top. And the reason that they're in the mess they're in is because they lack leadership at the top during the time all of this was going through court. The people that were in charge of the NCAA, including its president,
Right.
decided to dig their heels in and not listen to the Supreme Court opinion that said this doesn't work. And so they made their own mess in essence, and it's completely out of control. It makes no sense at all.
Right.
We were fortunate to have great leadership with Pete Rozelle and then Paul Tagliabue, who in his vision, created the system that we have now and it's lasted 34 years.
Wow.
That's why we have the prosperity we do. The free agency, salary cap, the rules-based system that we have has created competitive balance. And so the Chicago Bears can go from 2-14 to being in the playoffs.
That's a story.
You know,
I mean, that's
yeah,
incredible.
So that's the difference in there's a book in there somewhere in a Harvard Business School study in there somewhere about leadership in sports. Because on the one hand, you have the NCAA with none. Charlie Baker, by the way, that's in there now, knows what he's doing.
Right.
He's just inherited a terrible mess.
Yeah.
But you go from no leadership to the best there is in Paul Tagliabue.
Yeah, I mean, that's really with all the leagues. If the leagues that are really succeeding now is, I mean, you look at them, the top, whoever the CEO or whoever's in charge of them has the leadership and they know what they're doing. I really wanted to ask you this because for us, I mean, this is literally probably one of my favorite days of the entire year, which is draft day, and I love the movie, but I know that's not all accurate to what your life actually was.
Let me just interject this. The only thing accurate about the movie Draft Day that GMs eat a lot of bad food over those 3 days. Everything else, forget about
I
it.
can't imagine how many hours, but I wanted to know what's it like going. I mean, I'm sure the excitement level for you is, I'm sure, like out of this world, but at the same time, you're going with if you mess up the pick, then the fans are mad. Like, what's that preparation up into that day, And then as that clock, like what's going through your mind as the clock is going down when you're about to have to take that pick?
I learned at the Merchant Marine Academy, we're a very important lesson.
Sure.
Proper preparation prevents poor performance. So if you're prepared, whether you're a player or a coach, a scout, an administrator, doesn't matter. If you're prepared for your job and you've put in the hours, you become the expert with 10,000 hours, and you recognize the task at hand and you have a plan to attack that task, then what the public says doesn't matter. Even noise around the building doesn't matter. You're focused on the job, and there's no trepidation there whatsoever. Nobody's nervous. Nobody's carrying on. You're nervous about whether or not you're going to get the guy you targeted. That's the only time. That's the only time anxiousness never is the equation.
Do you have? I mean, you had countless years of this. Is there a favorite draft story you have?
I was going to ask that question.
There's a lot of them. I get the funniest one is we were in love with a safety from Iowa named Bob Sanders. This was in Indianapolis.
Sure.
And we felt like we'd been to the playoffs like 6 consecutive years, something like that. Just couldn't make the last step.
Right.
And we thought Bob would be the linchpin that would do it for us, just like Booger McFarland eventually was. And so we went to the pre-draft physical meeting, which takes place around the 15th of February.
Sure.
I'm sitting in the meeting room with the rest of our staff, and the doctor says Bob Sanders failed the physical.
Oh, gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh is right. My heart dropped. I said, what in heaven's name is wrong? He said, well, he's got a bad fix to an operation that was done on his foot.
Oh, no.
And so it's just getting worse and worse.
Sure.
I don't want to bore you with the anatomy.
Sure.
And so I said, oh, heavens, Doc, we love this guy. He's going to be the first pick. And so our foot doctor, Dave Porter, surgeon, said, well, let's bring him in again. I want to put him through a series of tests. Maybe we can fix him. So he did.
Wow.
And he said he's going to miss all of training camp, but he'll be 100% when he comes back.
That's wild.
So I said, fine by me. Tony Dungy said, fine by me. If he was going to miss half a season, we were
Like,
okay.
whatever you need to do.
So then as we got closer to the draft, Tom Telesco, who was our pro guy at the time, said to me, I'm hearing that Bob is dropping in the draft because other people have the same physical stuff we do. So I said, wow. So we started to think about the possibility of trading down into the second round to get Bob anyway.
Right.
But then get additional picks for him.
Yeah, and use an additional first round pick.
Sure.
So I forget who we took in the first round. We decided to do that. We made a trade. I can't recall who was with right now, but we went to like the maybe the 6th or 7th pick of the second round.
Sure.
Where we were sure
You could
we had
fill that in.
metrics that told us
Sure.
within 3 or 4 slots where everybody was going to go into the middle of the second round. So we felt good about that.
Solid.
And the phone rings at the start of the second round, and I believe it was the Cleveland Browns calling, and they said, we'll offer you, if we swap seconds, we'll give you a third and a fourth to swap seconds.
Okay.
So
It's hard to take. That's hard
I
not
said,
to
well, it was Butch Davis, the calling
Right.
coach, and I said, Butch, let me call you back. I want to talk it over with Tony. So I said to Tony, we got Bob right here. The gods, football gods are smiling at us. You know, why would we want to go back? Well, Tony loved draft picks. and contrary to his public perception, he didn't mind gambling.
Right. Sounds about right.
That's
So
hilarious.
he said, I think we were going back to 13, if I remember. And so,
You risked it.
yeah. So Tony said, "Don't worry about it. Make the deal. We're going to get him. I know we're going to get him." We're all hearing
Putting
the
it
same
all on the
thing.
line.
He said, "Let's make the deal. We'll get back what we paid to, go down." So I said, "Okay, I trust you."
Oh, no.
So now we get to about pick 10. And the room was about this size.
Sure.
So, with boards on either
On
wall,
all
and
the
then the
sides.
big board right in front.
Right.
I started pacing. And Tom Telesco said that he was sure I did a mile in
That's
15
unbelievable.
minutes pacing.
That's
around the room,
unbelievable.
waiting.
See what everyone picked, right?
Yeah, waiting for and every time there was a pick, I'd like my heart stopped.
Did you get him?
Yes, we got it. And he became Defensive Player of the Year.
That's unbelievable. No way.
Sounds like y'all made the right choice. Extra draft picks, the guy you always wanted.
Yeah.
You got to move back an extra round.
How did you make, you're talking about the charts on the side of the wall. I mean, how much time, going up to draft week, how much time did that take you guys to build that whole thing out?
Well, it starts in September,
Right.
with 5,000 names.
And that's with your other scouts doing the
Yes,
work,
with
correct?
the scouting department. And by the time you get to draft day, it's down. We tried to get it down to 100. We never quite could get there.
Sure.
It's around 100 with our board, and this is not typical. We were lower than most people, about 110. So you start with 5,000 and you go down to 110.
That's crazy.
And that's input largely from the scouting staff. They make their essentially final reports next week.
Right.
And then, or in December.
Right, sure.
Then the All-Star games come and it kind of gets modified
Sure.
a little bit. The coaches will look at specific players. The head coach, at least those that I've worked with, looks at everybody.
Right.
And I would look at everybody. So I'd see, I and the coach would, and the personnel director sees about 300 players. I would see about 125. The coach would see about 125. So we all knew, in
Rough.
what we called the management group, there were 5 of us. We all knew everybody on the board.
Right. Y'all were so close in Buffalo for 4 years, just really knocking at the door at the Super Bowl. What was really the hardest part for you about getting that close and not winning it yet? And then Carolina knocking at the door and kind of a whole different opportunity, and being willing to say, you know what, I'm gonna take just a different opportunity, knowing that you were kind of that close at Buffalo.
Well, first of all, the Super Bowl is one game, and it's a completely different situation from year to year.
Sure.
I believe very firmly that no team in any sport is the same from year to year. Now, when you have a really good team, a championship level team, let's say the Chicago Bulls,
Sure.
our teams at Buffalo, Dallas Cowboys
Those
with
are
Jimmy Johnson.
dynasty teams.
Yeah. That lifespan, this doesn't come from me, it comes from Senator Bill Bradley and Phil Jackson.
Sure.
That lifespan is 7 to 8 years. Because that's the lifespan, basically, of a high-level professional athlete.
Right.
After that, they begin to decline. At age 28, they begin to decline, no matter what the sport is.
Wow.
So you have to think about that. Number one, there's a lifespan of a team. The so-called Super Bowl window, most of the press doesn't know what they're talking about. It's a phrase. And,
Right.
But that's what it is. That's what the window is.
Interesting.
And then you recognize that the Super Bowl is one game. The more teams that are in the tournament, the more teams that make the playoffs, the more chance of an upset.
Right.
That's mathematically true.
Sure.
And so your goal is to win the division, get the home game, then win the conference and get the bye. There's only one now, so it's harder to do.
It's a lot harder.
And then ultimately play that last game. In the NFL, 31 teams go home unhappy. So you have to step back and look at it that way. Having said that, the loss in the Super Bowl is the only thing worse is a tragedy in your family.
It's true.
It is. I mean, just for the moment.
And that's your life too.
That's your life.
That's
yeah.
what you.
That's what you
breathe.
do for a living. Yeah. So it's like losing a presidential race,
Sure.
losing a senatorial race.
You build up all year for that one moment just
That's right.
to, and a lot of times, I mean, most teams it's not even their best game most of the time because teams are so built up. The game is so built up in a lot of players' minds, at least it looks like that on the field. Like the NFC and the AFC championships happen to be normally better games because they're fighting to get to the Super Bowl. Once they're in the Super Bowl, players
Well,
get nervous.
interestingly enough, I've built teams that have been to 6 of them,
Sure.
and the people often ask, was this one in Indianapolis
Right.
where we won, 1 out of 6?
That's cool.
Was that the most joyful one? And the answer, I gave the answer immediately. I found out later on in talking to the players that they felt the same way. The answer is no, this game wasn't the most joyful one of all. It was beating New England in that championship
AFC
game, finally
championship.
slaying that dragon who had been our nemesis for
Right.
so long. And we
Brady.
came from 21 points behind at the end of the half
So
to do it.
such a crazy game.
And that game was at home. So in the championship
So your whole
game,
fan base
to
is
your
behind
point,
you.
Sure.
you separate, you celebrate with your fan base.
It's at home.
It's at home. It doesn't have all the hoopla and all the nonsense that surrounds the Super Bowl. People who don't care whether you win or lose as long as they come to party, stuff like that. The Super Bowl is a whole different kettle of fish. From a football standpoint, both Mark Schlereth, who is a friend of mine, who's been in 5 of them, and Adam Vinatieri, who I think has been in 7, if I'm not
Right.
mistaken,
Nice.
both said the same thing.
It's crazy.
The team that recognizes that it's just another football game first is the team that's likeliest to win. You have to do that. You have to separate everything else out, turn the noise off. The organization has to support the players and coaches in doing that by taking care of all the other stuff that needs to be taken care of.
Right.
Aunt Susie forgot her ticket on game day. There's a guide to go to if you do it right.
Sure.
So the player doesn't have to worry about that. And so that part of it makes it unique. But in the end, once you kick it off, it's just another football game. Having said that, the emotion, especially the first time you go, is overwhelming. Because you asked me before, did I ever
Right.
have that, what am I doing here moment? It was walking down the tunnel at Super Bowl 25 with Coach Levy.
Really?
Yeah, he turned to me and he said, "This is a long way from Coke College and NYU, isn't it, Bill?" I said, "Yeah, it sure is."
You want to ask about McAfee?
Yeah, I have to ask you this because I'm sure you've seen the video of the Pat McAfee story of like when he gets drafted. He told the story. I saw it on on my phone like 2 weeks ago. He's like, I got drafted, and in the draft process, Coach Polian calls me and he asked me if I can, he's like, I punt. He asked me if I can place hold too, and he's like, I totally lied to him. Told him I do it all the time, and when he gets drafted. And pretty much, I don't know who his kicker, I can't remember who the kicker was at the time. Vinatieri's like, and he's like, hey, go ahead and place hold for me. And he's like, yeah, I got to tell you the truth. Like, I lied to his face. Like, I've never done it in my life. He was like, that next call with Coach Polian wasn't the best moment of my life, and I learned how to do it after that. What was it like having a guy like that in your locker room?
Well, he was unique.
I mean, it's a one-of-a-kind type of guy.
But he was good-natured, funny, marched to his own drummer, that's for sure. And got in some trouble early on. But we had a very, very strong locker room. Jeff Saturday, Dwight Freeney,
Right.
to say nothing of Peyton Manning. His nickname, the Sheriff, is not for some spurious reason.
Right. And he ruined lots of people's seasons in the NFL.
Yeah, he was and he, those guys, Robert Mathis didn't say much, but he was a big presence. So those veterans got a hold of Pat right away and said, "Hey, listen, straighten up and
Get
fly
your act
right.
together."
This is not the Colts way of doing
That's
things."
funny.
So, the early kerfuffles went by the boards, and he became a darn good punter.
No, I mean, I saw that video and I was like, man, I gotta ask him that. That's a wild story. I want to come back to here in Carolina because you were coming here and really taking an opportunity and building a team from scratch. I mean, what kind of opportunity was that for you when they presented it to you, and what about the Panthers really excited you?
Well, I was coming off a year where I was vice president of football preparations for the league.
Right. Sure.
And I'd spent the previous 4 years when I was in Buffalo as a member of a 4-man committee that helped develop the salary cap and the system we have now. And then I helped to implement it when I was in the league office, very close to Commissioner Tagliabue. The other people on the committee were George Young, GM of the Giants in the Hall of Fame, Steve Gutman, the president of the Jets, Jim Irsay, and myself. So
that's insane.
We had literally a second full-time job for 4 years developing this system and then negotiating it with the players' union. And people have asked about that, and I said, Commissioner Tagliabue was the architect. It was his vision that put it all together. We were the mechanics. We were the people that made it work. I had decided, Commissioner Tagliabue wanted me to stay in the league office and head up football operations, but I didn't like living in New York, even though I was born there.
Interesting.
And I missed Sunday terribly. I was at a game every Sunday working with the officials and making sure that everything went well and all that kind of stuff, but it's not the same as competing. So I told him that, and he said, well, fine. I'll go with my 7 blessings. I'll give you a great recommendation. So I had a chance to go other places. But I knew Mike McCormick, who was the president here.
Right.
And I'd met Jerry Richardson. And I pretty much had made up my mind to go somewhere else. And Mike had a heart attack and was out of work for a while. And Jerry called me and said, I need you, and gave me a pretty good sales pitch. And the idea of starting a team from scratch in the brand new free agency era made sense to me, because I knew the rules inside out, and a lot of other people didn't, very honestly. I mean, that was simply because of...
And you've been in the game for a long time, too.
I've been working with this system when it was in its infancy, when it was being developed.
Sure.
So I figured out, hey, we can get under this, as long as they don't charge us charge the salary cap with excess salaries from people that we draft in the expansion draft, we can have a lot of free agency money to build a team.
Yeah, you're set.
Yeah, so I thought, good idea, and good place to be, and the Carolinas were intriguing. It was then among the hottest markets in the country. It still is today, but then it was really booming. And my wife liked the idea of it, so we said, okay, let's go. We settled here, thinking, by the way, that our temporary workout facility would be in Charlotte. It wasn't. It ended up being in Rock Hill.
Right. Right.
So I had a long commute.
I mean, that's not. I mean, and I'm sure there's not one other team in the NFL that has that long of a commute than Charlotte.
Probably not. So. And we had to play at Clemson the first year because the stadium wasn't ready. That, too, was a long commute. But the bottom line was it looked like a very appealing job. What I didn't count on, and it was my fault, I should have done a lot more research than I did, was that general managers of expansion teams, period, don't often see their work through.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Because there's so much teaching that you have to do to people in the organization just to get them to realize, listen, this is a highly competitive league. This isn't like the business you used to be in. It isn't like the law practice you used to be in.
Right.
And then there's constant hiring. The hiring didn't overwhelm me, but it was a lot of work.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, a lot going on. Well said. There was a lot going on that you don't anticipate. So, and then in addition to that, Dom Capers and I had decided that we'll go heavy on veterans. We'll draft a quarterback, Kerry Collins.
Right.
And we'll bring in a veteran backup, Steve Berline. And then the rest of it, we'll sprinkle in a lot of veterans, particularly on defense, some who knew the system, i.e. Sam Mills, and Kevin Green,
Right.
who we got through free agency. And because a lot of the defensive guys were at the end of their careers,
Right.
we were going to have to turn it over very fast. So Mr. Richardson liked the idea because we had to sell PSLs. For the longest time, they said, well, there's 20,000 PSLs. I'm not sure there really were.
Right. Right.
All I know is we had to sell PSLs.
It's a selling point, though.
Right. So we had to win,
Sure.
which no expansion team had ever done before. So we did. We won. We went 9-7 the second year. I think 7-9 the first year, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
And 7-9, and go to the NFC Championship.
I've really never heard. I don't think I've ever heard of a team with that quick of a turnaround.
Well, Jacksonville did it too on the AFC.
Wow.
Because Tom Coughlin understood the rules and took advantage
didn't
of
know
them,
that.
did exactly what we did. But then they went through the draft, and so they didn't have to turn their team over as quickly as we did.
Y'all had all the vets.
And then by the time we reached the championship game, there were a ton of people in the organization that thought that we were, quote, one player away from a world championship, when in fact we were about 5 players away from the bottom falling out. And we ended up in a very bad contract dispute with the agent for Kevin Green. Ended up having to trade Kevin. The bottom fell out. I was dispirited. It was just, I'd had enough. And Jim Irsay called me up out of the blue and said, listen, are you happy there? I said, no. He said, well,
I want to go win.
he said, come on and work for me. So I'd known him for a long time, so it was the perfect marriage.
What was your relationship like with him?
Jim?
Yes, sir.
Phenomenal. His father was the owner. He started in high school working in the equipment room.
Sure.
So he did every job from high school all the way through college, through eventually becoming the GM and then the owner.
That's crazy.
He did every job in the organization.
That's incredible.
So a conversation with ownership that would take me with Carolina, for example,
Sure.
a couple of hours to explain what the key issues of any particular decision process were, would take 15 minutes.
He already knew.
He already knew.
What was going on?
Been there, done that. Yeah.
What was
And
it-
very supportive, by the way. Very supportive. Funny story.
Yeah, let's hear it.
We, I forget again what year it is, but we got 2 guys that we know we're going to get at the bottom of the first round. We were
Blocks.
deep in the playoffs at this point in time, making the playoffs every year. And so Tony favored a defensive end whose name I can't remember, but a good player. And I wanted Dallas Clark, the tight end from Iowa. And so Jim came in on Thursday. The draft was, I think, started Thursday night, so he came in Thursday morning. And he said, what do you got? So we explained it to him. Tony made his pitch for the defensive player, and I made my pitch for Dallas Clark. And so Jim said, well, we'll see what happens tonight. He turned around and started to walk out the door. Turned around and said, listen, whatever you guys decide, it's going to work. It's going to be the right thing. I'm 1,000% behind you. You know that. But if it was up to me, I'd take Dallas Clark. Tony, we all cracked up, and Tony said, I know who we're taking.
That's not real. That's awesome. That's incredible. What was it like? I mean, honestly, you spent so much time, and you like you said, that Super Bowl was really, you're that game away, and you finally have the quarterback with Peyton Manning. What was it like? First of all, I mean, you signed him. You not drafted him, but you signed him in Indianapolis. Oh, no, you did draft him in Indianapolis.
Drafted him, yes. First pick in the draft.
what was it like working with him, and then that moment of like finally winning the Super Bowl?
Watching Peyton Manning, it took a couple years for him to figure it
Yeah,
out.
it wasn't. I mean, I feel like that's the difference in today. Like, I mean, when you watch a quarterback come out of today's draft class,
Like Bryce Young's a great
yeah,
example.
Bryce Young's a great example, and I think he's still figuring things out. But I mean, people expect your quarterback to have it like that, or he's a bust right away. If he's not perfect in that first season, what was it like really watching Peyton figure it all out to eventually winning that Super Bowl?
I'll put Peyton aside for the moment. Two great questions. The first question, the answer is that the people who set the expectations, by and large, have never been there.
They don't know what they're
They've never been inside a facility. They've never been on a practice field. They've never sat down and interviewed. I don't mean press interview. I'm talking about football.
Right.
Put them on the board. Talk about what it is.
They don't
he
know what's
sees.
going on.
They don't. Yes. They don't have the expertise to set the expectations, because if they had the expertise, they wouldn't
ask that
create the
question.
expectations that they do. So that's number one. And the first thing, as a general manager, you have to do is make it clear to those that write and speak and so on that the journey for the quarterback, for a rookie quarterback, is long and arduous. It takes 4 years for a quarterback to be able to play at the championship level in the NFL. I won't take you through the projection, just trust me, it takes 4 years.
Right.
So Peyton now had played 4 full years at Tennessee in a system that was very, very similar to the NFL.
Sure.
For example, the young man, Caleb Williams,
Yes, sir. Chicago.
only played 2 years at SC, and that system wasn't transferable at all. So he's had a much harder road to hoe than Peyton did, and isn't there yet. I mean, he's still growing.
He's still figuring it out.
It takes 4 years. That's the one part of it. The second part of it is that I've never been around anybody who works as hard as Peyton. Never been around anybody who prepared as hard. I'm talking about football season, 7 days a week, 14, 15, 16 hours a day.
Wow.
Off season, he'll take a month off working out, but all the rest of that time basically doing film work, going to the Pro Bowl. He would come back from the Pro Bowl, he'd have a yellow legal pad with 25 suggestions of things to do that he'd sit down with me.
Wow.
And say, here's what I heard from this guy, this is what I think they should do. And all of it was good stuff.
Yeah.
So he was immersed in his job.
Wow.
And then the other side of him is what you see in the commercials and on Saturday Night Live. That's the other side of his personality. He never met a practical joke he doesn't like. He'll poke fun at himself. I've told this story 100 times before, but it's funny and it's true. We trained at Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology
Right.
in Terre Haute, Indiana,
Sure.
which is very hilly. Terre Haute.
Right.
Right. In French, in the French language. So our dormitory and the fields were at the bottom level in the valley, and you had to walk up 6 flights to get to the chow hall and the camp administrative office and the classrooms. So everybody had a golf cart. So I come out one morning, my golf cart's gone. Where's my car? Okay, somebody took it by mistake. I must have left the key in it. So I walk up the 6 flights, I come into the camp office, and I say to the camp administrator who'd been with me from my time in Buffalo,
Sure.
hey, somebody took my golf cart. Did anybody turn it in or anything? And there was a picture window sort of like to the right over there.
Sure.
And he pointed out the picture window, and there was a little bitty lake out there that the students used to swim. And in the middle of the lake was a float that they dove from. On top of the float was my golf cart.
Oh my gosh, no way.
No way.
Absolutely. So I said immediately, well, I know who
get it
did
out?
that.
Was it Peyton?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, that's great. That's unbelievable.
Of course it was.
How does he even get it out there?
Don't ask me. So that morning in stretching, I walked up knelt down to him on the stretching line. I said, "You'll never guess what happened." So he gave me the deadpan Saturday Night Live look. Yeah, what happened? I said, "Some jackass stole my golf cart." He goes, "What a shame that is. If I were you, I'd start an investigation." I said, "Don't worry, I'm calling the FBI." I walked away.
That's unbelievable. You knew it was him the
Oh,
whole
of course,
time,
I
and
knew
you
it
knew it
was
was
him
him.
immediately, yeah.
That's
I
great.
love that. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. So, last couple questions for you before we wrap this up. You're now, I mean, even after your NFL days are over, you're still now working over at ESPN doing your show over there. How much do you enjoy doing that? Because it's wildly different. I guess it's still all sports related, but it's wildly different from the GM side and the NFL personnel side, and now you're doing radio. How have you enjoyed picking that side up?
Well, after I left the Colts, I went to ESPN and was on television for about 6 or 7 years. I can't remember how long. I enjoyed it very much.
Right.
But and now I'm with Sirius Radio. You're right. It's different, and there is a different perspective, and so I still bring some of my perspective as a GM to the show, and I think that's probably what makes it interesting to people, because I'm very different than some of the other so-called talking heads.
Sure.
But it's still not like being in the building every day, where you know everything and you can see everything. So it's a different world, but it keeps me connected. And as you get older, you need things to do and give you a reason to get up in the morning. And other than my grandchildren and whatever my wife wants me to do, I'm not getting in the car putting in 14 and 15-hour days anymore. So I enjoy doing it.
What advice would you give to someone that's, I mean, you were in the world for such a long time. In today's world, it's even harder to get into the NFL because everyone wants to do it. What advice would you give to someone that's dream is to become a general manager or just want to work in the NFL or sports?
First of all, I got this from, I won't tell you who, but it's a very prominent name who I was talking to on the phone the other day. And he said to me, there are far too many people in this business now for whom it's a job. For us, and he's my generation, or just a little, he's younger than I, but same generation.
Right.
He said, for us, there was no money. It was a calling. That's what we were called to do.
It's God's will.
Yeah. And so the money didn't matter. You moved from place to place. You worry about your family, obviously, but it's still what you do. Now, with the money and the notoriety, it's a different space. People who had never given a thought to being in football or baseball or basketball are now in it because you can make a heck of a lot of money and you can get a lot of notoriety.
Right.
Now, they find out that the notoriety isn't quite what they think it is.
They thought it was, right.
There's a downside to it. But the money's pretty darn good. So they bring a different point of view to things. And that different point of view is largely, I think, the connection with the players. People who came up through the football side of the business understand how valuable the players are. The union used to have a slogan, they don't use it anymore, the players union, that we are the game. That's correct. They are the game. Nobody ever paid to see a GM negotiate a contract or even make a draft pick, for that matter. So it's the players who make it happen. And part of your job as an administrator, even as a scout, and certainly as a coach, is to make sure you put the players in the proper place to succeed, A, and B, take care of them. Make sure that you take care of their health, make sure you take care of their mental health, make sure you're doing the right things in strength and conditioning to allow them to be the best they can be. I'm not sure your generation quite subscribes to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think people get into it. I mean, for a lot of different reasons, and like you said, there's this whole. I can't think of it. Like, there's this whole thing where people believe, like you said, you're going to get the fame and all that, but there's not. Fame is not always a great thing. There's two sides to it. You don't think like guys don't want to be in the paper every week, and half the stuff isn't true, and you can't like. There's a whole different side to that world, and it's not always a pro.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Plus, you know, you got to really care. You got to really care about what you're doing, and it's a hard business to be in if you want to if you expect a normal life. That's not the way the league works.
Sure.
You got to be able to.
Absolutely. So, Coach, last question for you. Obviously, your career, I mean, stands for itself. It's absolutely amazing what you've done. Looking back over
NFL Hall of Fame.
yeah, right. I mean, congrats, obviously, but over the last, just looking back over your career, is there a favorite memory or story that just kind of sticks out to you? It's like, man, that was just an awesome time.
No, I couldn't pick one. You know, there's been
so
so many. Yeah, there've been so many. I think I have one regret.
Sure.
One regret. I mentioned a lot of players in my Hall of Fame acceptance speech, and I should have done what Tony did the following year, which was to ask everybody who I'd had the pleasure of working with to stand up and take a bow, because they're the ones that put me there. So if some of them are listening, I apologize. But they're the people that do it. And what makes it so great is that today, a lot of those players in Buffalo that went to those 4 straight Super Bowls are grandfathers.
It's crazy.
You don't think of it that way, but they are.
Yeah.
Sam Mills has passed on. Kevin Green has passed on. And our guys in Indianapolis are now fathers. You know, they're raising children that are your age. It's that connection which remains to this day. It's that connection that you value most. When it's all said and done,
It's relationships.
it's the relationships that you remember most.
This is my fault. I mean, first of all, it's amazing advice. I have to ask you this because we're sitting with one of the GM greats of NFL history. I mean, you know, we're diehard Carolina Panther fans. We just watched with you. We're going to the playoffs for the first time in 7 years, I think. Really 10. When you're looking at that franchise in particular, what are they like? If you were sitting at the GM, what's the main thing you would be doing? Like, what step do they need to take to make that next level?
Well, first of all, they got to have the playoff experience.
So, yeah, I guess
They're going to have now, I guess.
Yeah, that's number one.
Right.
First, and I think the world of Dan Morgan, and he's done a remarkable job, as I did of Scott Fitter. Scott's a terrific guy. Just stay the course now. You know, make the defense better. That's been the Achilles heel all along. I think that's now.
Right.
They tried, but I still think they lack some pieces there, and that's understandable.
Sure.
You can't do it all.
You can't do it all in one off season.
Make the defense better. I think the receiver core is pretty good. I'd like to see, I love the tight end group. I'd like to see a Dallas Clark type tight end.
Right.
That would help, a totally receiving tight end.
Sure.
That
I agree with you.
Not that the
Not a-
guys in
not a
here
block- not
aren't.
a block.
Tommy's good.
But they're blocking tight ends.
Yeah, well, yeah,
lot of
they're not game changers.
No.
In the passing game.
No.
And then, as long as Bryce continues to develop, the offensive, Joe Gilbert has done a remarkable job with the offensive line. Remarkable.
How many guys have been injured? I mean, I think they said yesterday. I mean, there's been at least like 13 different starting offensive linemen this season. They've changed the group
schemes
so
and-
many
yeah.
times because of injuries.
And Dave has done a remarkable job with the whole team and with Bryce. So, as long as everybody continues to grow, goes through the playoff experience, let's go as far as we can go. They've got the right people in place. Dave Tepper understands, I think, what the challenges are going forward, and that you can't change things overnight. It's hard to do in the National Football League. And so as long as they stay the course, I think they're in good shape.
Well, we hope so. We're excited for probably next Monday night. Hopefully, we're going to get a win. But, Coach, thank you so much for taking the time. We really do appreciate you and your wisdom. And, yeah, thank you so much.
Glad to be with you.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.